Well, good morning everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Kenneth Bannerman. I'm the Director General, the founder and head of the Airfields of Britain Conservation Trust, or ABCT for short, and I'm here with my colleagues to help honour Elsham Wolds Airfield and also the World War I Elsham Airfield that I'll just mention more or less right now. Going back in time, in World War I, there was the World War I fighter airfield, which was just called Elsham, as opposed to this one, Elsham Wolds. This was on the eastern edge of the airfield here. You know, there used to be the control tower till the 1980s. You still get the J hangar here. This was on the far side of Elsham Wolds. This is a separate airfield from the World War II site. This opened at the end of 1916 as a fighter flight station for the Royal Flying Corps and then the Royal Air Force. And it was used by Sea Flight of number 33 Squadron that also had connections with Curtin Lindsey, which again is not the Curtin in Lindsey airfield from World War II. This is how confusing it gets, unfortunately. And also, of course, the legendary Scampton of Dambusters fame. So this original airfield carried on fighter defence of this general area into 1919, when it eventually closed. A lot of records are missing to do with World War I airfields, sadly destroyed for various reasons, but there is sufficient evidence to show that this place played a major part in the winning of World War I. Come the early summer of 1940, Elsham Wolds airfield was selected, the land was requisitioned for development as a heavy bomber airfield. It was originally intended, incidentally, to have connections with Carnington, today's Humberside Airport, of course. So this airfield eventually opened rather protractedly during June and July 1941. One source, this is very difficult, you know, when it comes to dates, for example, because one source, in a way quite rightly, says that this airfield opened, to be exact, on the 15th of June 1941. But there was only one problem. The personnel weren't even here at the time. They were still at Benbrook and they didn't come to Elsham Wolds till a few days later. So once the airfield got going, especially in July 1941, the main unit that was based here was number 103 Squadron. And this flew in turn Vickers Wellingtons, then briefly Handley Page Halifaxes, before eventually Avro Lancasters. And one of the most famous individual Lancasters of all was based here, serial number ED888, or Mike Squared, to give it its nickname, which famously flew no less than 140 operational sorties over its career between 1943 until it was retired in the end of 1944. The highest number in RAF bomber command, and this was all from Elsham Wolds. So this place played a huge part in the war effort. We mustn't forget all the other squadrons that were based here. There was another squadron that was hived off from the main unit here that then went to Fiskerton in Lincolnshire after about a year. And then under various renaming strategies after World War II ended, number 103 Squadron was renamed, and then with another squadron that had arrived from Grimsby or Waltham, just more or less at the end of World War II, they then transferred to Scampton at the end of 1945. There's a very famous photograph, incidentally, of a Lancaster at Elsham Wolds. If you can imagine the scene, it's a nighttime scene. The Lancaster's waiting to take off, and in the background are these very dramatic, what are called Sandra lights, like if you can imagine, like a cone of searchlights, and that's quite a famous photograph. After that, the final part in the Elsham Wolds flying career, anyhow, was when number 21 Heavy Glider Conversion Unit came here and stayed about another year before moving to North Luffenham in Rutland. After that, the airfield wound down. It closed in the summer of 1947. And if you find in records such as Hansard, for example, you can see that by February 1948, the airfield was in the process of being militarily de-requisitioned for civil use. But that wasn't the end of the story by any means, because as is still very much remembered, this place became nicknamed Warsaw Hamlet, to do with the Poles and the Ukrainians that unfortunately couldn't go back to their homelands after the end of World War II. So there were a lot of Eastern European families that were based here from 1948 to 1952. One or two websites mentioned, very interesting just from a social point of view. So this was all to do with the steelworks in Scunthorpe, of course. And then, as we all know, in more recent times, it's become a very prominent industrial estate. The main roads now bisected the airfield, but there's still a lot left around here. I mean, I can remember I first came here round about, I think it was 1984. And this is, put that in perspective, 22 years before the charity formed. So, you know, I can remember, it hasn't really changed. I mean, obviously more industrial buildings here, but it's still, the point is it's still very, very relevant. And this is the whole point with all of our airfields, whether they are active or disused, and what we are trying to help them with through our national charity, which incidentally is the first of its kind in the world, never mind Britain. You know, we're making a real difference. It's just all about trying to illustrate how our airfields, and not forgetting of course all the personnel who have served at them, have made a huge difference in all sorts of ways towards the advancement and benefit of all of us without fail. And not just militarily, but also notably socially, jobs, facilities, services, you name it. These places and everyone associated with them are phenomenally important beyond all belief. But as some of us, include myself, realised till not maybe that many years ago, our airfields were maybe at best just taken for granted, I think it's best to say, if maybe not just sadly ignored. But thankfully times and attitudes are now changing, and people are now beginning to realise just how incredibly important our airfields are. They are being increasingly recognised as Britain's greatest ever physical assets, but it's through ourselves and of course various other organisations and individuals, we're doing everything we humanly can to make sure that places like the two Elsham airfields and everyone who served at them are properly remembered and recognised. And so just bear in mind that by the end of this year we will have unveiled nearly 200 memorials across the UK. So thank you so much for attending, and you know, we hope this helps the community in various ways. And again, not forgetting the plaques. We have incidentally got other plaques that will be unveiled, certainly be no later than later this year. You'll know the names anyhow. New Holland, Winterton, Curtin Lindsay, places like that, all World War I sites. So they will be up and coming fairly soon. And therefore it's with very great pleasure that we're able to unveil what is now ABCT's 71st memorial, in this case to Elsham Wolds Airfield. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'd like to just do a few quotations. You know them all. Apologies for reading it. Kohima epitaph is the one that was in Burma. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow we gave our today. The exhortation that we get every year at the other side, they shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a great honour to be allowed to be part of this. Thank you, Robin. And I needed him for the height, you understand. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
You want to...
Can I get everybody together?
Okay.
Around.
Thanks very much.
Only just, Jenny. Only just.
I shall stand behind, sir. Look over his shoulder.
Oh, you get in there.
Yeah, there's plenty of room here.
Right.
Right. And into this camera, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Keep it there. Thank you very much.